residents fighting to save their neighborhoods, telling Fox 45 prostitution is a growing problem.
It's getting worse rather than better.
Why she says she's not confident things will get better, even after sitting down with police. Another violent start to the school year, a loaded gun found inside an elementary middle school.
This is bad. This is really bad. I have a child that go to the school.
What has parents so frustrated and afraid for their children's safety? Concerns over the state superintendent's leadership.
Have you ever used the Signal application and commission of your job?
Fox 45 News Project Baltimore examines text messages the superintendent never wanted you to see. As Baltimore's car theft problems get worse, growing criticism for how police are handling it.
I called the police, and it took them about an hour, almost 2 hours to get back to me.
Why some say police are leaving residents in a lurch.
Sweltering temperatures gripping Maryland when we break this heat wave and the storm threats moving in tomorrow.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Abel.
And I'm Kai Jackson. As summer winds down and election season heats up, Fox 45 News demands answers from city leaders surrounding Baltimore's crime crisis.
We've seen a mass shooting that left 2 dead and 28 injured, stolen cars on seemingly every corner of the city, and shots fired at a high school football game just last weekend.
Juvenile crime is surging across Baltimore. The rise in violence has some residents questioning elected leaders.
The constant shootings, the constant shootings, the constant shootings. They repeat it.
Get it cleaned up. Hold these people accountable for their crimes and their violence and their actions.
They need to stop making excuses. They need to start locking these kids up. They need to change the laws.
Tonight, we have team coverage of a city in crisis. Vincent Hill hears from parents after a gun was found at a local school.
Keith Daniels shares one woman's concern with a particular crime in her area, still an issue despite her pleas to the mayor and police. Mayor Scott also facing questions as the 2024 mayoral race begins to take shape.
Today, Fox 45 News took voters' concerns directly to him. We asked, why should people trust him to get crime under control?
His comments come as challengers begin applying the pressure.
But we need to do something different.
At a community meeting in West Baltimore, the announcement seemed to come out of nowhere. Bob Wallace told the crowd he's exploring another run for mayor.
This time running as a Democrat.
The South Baltimore businessman ran as an independent 3 years ago and garnered 20% of the vote. But this time, Wallace says he will not be running as an independent in this largely Democratic city.
And I think running as an independent, I think there were situations where people could not hear my message. And I felt that it was important to remove all the barriers so that the voters of Baltimore could hear my ideas and could hear the vision that I have for the city.
Wallace won't be the only new Democrat seeking the mayor's seat.
You got to be a Democrat to win here in Baltimore City.
WCBM.
On Talk Radio this morning.
I was Republican for a time, then I changed to independent, but I am running as a Democrat.
Wendy Bozell announced she, too, has become a Democrat and is running for mayor.
I'm a Baltimore City teacher, and I'm running for mayor because I know exactly what needs to be done to help the city, and we first have to start with education.
It's still unclear whether longtime Democrat and former Mayor Sheila Dixon will enter the race. She hinted at her intentions during an interview 2 months ago.
I know I can make a tremendous difference in the city.
In the 2020 primary, Dixon lost to Mayor Brandon Scott by a little more than 2,000 votes.
There are still people who will ride and die with Sheila Dixon. So she has that thing going for her more than any of the other candidates.
Political analyst John Deedy believes the crime war could make or break the race. Today, Mayor Brandon Scott, who's seeking re-election, was making his case.
My message to residents is that, one, I have done this job with the utmost integrity, never been able to have anybody talk about my work ethic or my integrity. But I ran on making sure that we were going to reduce violent crime in Baltimore. Homicides are down 20%. Shootings are down 10%. That is not the case for many major cities.
As the mayor pointed out, homicides and non-fatal shootings are down. The mayor says it's because of his crime-fighting strategy. Maryland U.S. Attorney Eric Barron points to his partnership with City State's Attorney Ivan Bates.
We think it's clear, and the data demonstrates that it's because we're working as a team. We're working collaboratively. We're being more focused about following the money on those who commit violent acts in our communities. Many of those violent acts are driven by money, whether it be illegal drugs or drug trafficking. And so we're really focused on better following the money as an additional means of taking violent criminals out of our communities.
While homicides and non-fatal shootings are down this year, the reductions are not what the mayor had originally promised. The mayor had vowed to reduce homicides by 15% each year of his term, getting to 300, below the 300 mark for the very first year. As the mayor, he also fell short of that promise, which also was juvenile crime is now skyrocketing and auto thefts are up more than 200% compared to this time last year. There's also criticism of the state of City Hall. Almost a dozen key agencies are without permanent leaders. The acting police commissioner will have his confirmation hearing on September 21st, more than 3 months after he was nominated. The confirmation for the acting fire chief will also be held on that day. That department has been without a permanent leader now for almost a year. The Department of Health, Public Works, and Monzi are also without permanent leaders.
Mayor Scott has faced a number of controversies during his time in office. The mayor and the Board of Estimates that all mayors appoint approved a controversial BGE conduit deal earlier this year. It gives BGE broad control over the underground infrastructure of the company. Now, the city's comptroller and council president sat out of that meeting to try to stop that vote, but it didn't work. Critics said the deal was rushed and they questioned the legality of it. Late last year, the mayor raised eyebrows when he accepted a $5,000 campaign donation from longtime city contractor J.P. Grant. Days after accepting the contribution, the city's Board of Estimates approved a $12 million contract with a company connected to Grant. And the entire time Mayor Scott has been in office, Fox 45 News has at times had a difficult time getting straight answers from him. He often shuts down our reporters or walks away.
But why make it?
Next.
Mayor Scott, how do you plan to delineate, I guess, the squeegee kids?
I'm going to delineate by telling you when we put out the strategy, as we just talked about before. You're not going to get a different answer. We have a process. We're sticking to it. Watch your back. Don't walk into the truck.
If you have a process, why was it leaked to WBAL?
See you later. Next question. Anybody else?
I have one more.
Thank you, everybody.
We'd like you to join the conversation for city residents. If the election were held today, who would you vote for mayor of Baltimore? Brandon Scott, Sheila Dixon, Bob Wallace, or someone else? So far, 63% of those who voted say someone else. You can weigh in at foxbaltimore.com/vote. Tune in to Fox 45 Morning News tomorrow. Sheila Dixon will join us live in our 7 o'clock hour to discuss her future and the changes she wants to see in Baltimore.
Over the past few weeks, residents have had the chance to bring their concerns about Baltimore directly to the mayor in a series of town halls he held with Acting Police Commissioner Richard Worley.
The prostitution. The prostitution brings the Johns in who feed the prostitutes with money.
That resident tells Fox 45 News tonight that she's now met with police about the problem, but has little confidence anything will change. Keith Daniels spoke with her tonight and joins us live with the latest turn of events. Keith?
Well, Jeff, it's a battle, we're told, that's lasted for about 4 years. Still, no results. Now, she told me today that she met with the captain and major in her police district just last night. But still tonight, she fears nothing will change. Standing on Wilmington Avenue in the Morrell Park neighborhood in South Baltimore, you can hear her frustration.
It's ruining the community, and I'm heartbroken.
Lori Weishorn refusing to give up. Adamant in her push to rid her community of prostitution and the other illegal residue that she says it brings. All happening in what she calls a park near the corner of her block on Washington Boulevard, next door to the most unlikely location.
You have an open drug market, you have people doing drugs, prostitution, trash everywhere, all hours of the day, all night long. This goes on, and it's next to the firehouse.
Blatant criminal behavior, she says, by individuals who couldn't care less about police.
I feel like ever since Marilyn Mosby took office way back when, and we put that in place, we're not arresting anybody for low-level crimes, I just don't think that we're picking up the pace to undo that quick enough.
Warren Aberstein,
the Mosby administration,
a former city prosecutor, now defense attorney, says Weishorn may have a point about the past prosecutor and her now overturned low-level offense prosecution policies.
It emboldened, it empowered those prostitutes and those pimps. It's very similar to what's going on with the juvenile. Those prostitutes and those pimps. It's very similar to what's going on with the juvenile.
Superintendent never wanted you to see.
Cell phone messages sent through an encrypted app and never meant to be seen by the public are now shedding light on what's been happening at the Maryland State Department of Education.
As Project Baltimore's Chris Pabst explains, those messages appear to support concerns over the superintendent's leadership, transparency, and creation of a toxic workplace culture.
Mr. Superintendent, have you ever used the Signal application in commission of your job?
This is Maryland State Superintendent of Schools, Mohammed Chaudhry, at a recent state school board meeting.
I have no comment. Thank you much. Appreciate it. For my job?
Well, Signal is an encrypted messaging app which allows users to set a timer to automatically delete messages. The software, found in the App Store on most smartphones, is marketed as having privacy at its core.
You've never used Signal for your job?
Thank you.
The state superintendent told us on the record, publicly, that he does not use the Signal app for his job. But these screenshots suggest otherwise. Project Baltimore obtained these screenshots of conversations between Chaudhry and high-ranking employees within the Maryland State Department of Education. Each one is a Signal message sent by Mohammed Chaudhry to at least one high-level MSDE employee whose name we are concealing. We received multiple text threads, which the source says were sent between late 2021 and 2022. Chaudhry's name is right there, along with his picture. This phone number, which we blurred, is registered to the superintendent. In these messages, Chaudhry certainly appears to be talking about work. Take a look at this screenshot. You can see Chaudhry set the disappearing message timer to 1 hour, which applies to select messages. Chaudhry writes, all of that teacher assignment stuff is too much. In this Signal message, Chaudhry tells an employee a project needs a lot of work, saying, as of now, I'm not even close to greenlighting anything there. Here, Chaudhry appears to berate his employee, saying, what feels like a waste of time is telling me last minute we are changing survey links when I told you I didn't want to do this. The employee responds, I don't understand what you see the issue to be. Chaudhry replies, I'll make it easy for you guys. You're not changing it. It's staying as is. Don't meet with me today. Done. That's a directive. Employee, so cancel the Qualtrics license? Chaudhry, yes, I don't give a about Qualtrics at this point. Qualtrics is a data analytics platform used by MSDE. That sounds like work. So why would the superintendent use an encrypted messaging app
as well as
that auto-deletes his conversations about work? If messages are sent through Signal, parents and taxpayers cannot see what's being said by their state superintendent about public schools. On August 3rd, Project Baltimore filed a public records request for Signal app data on the cell phone of Mohammed Chaudhry. This is what we got back. MSDE replied, there are no documents or records responsive to your request. That's probably because, as far as we can tell, the Signal app is not on Chaudhry's state-issued phone. This phone number is his personal number, meaning the state superintendent is using an app to encrypt and erase messages about state business on his personal cell phone. So we followed up with Chaudhry in an email, asking him to explain the screenshots and why he told us he never used Signal for his job. His answer has now changed. In a statement, Chaudhry said he used the encrypted messaging app with family and friends. He went on to say he used the app to communicate personal messages with one senior member of his team, adding, despite my repeated directives to not message me any official agency business-related matters through the Signal application, this individual continued to try to do so. But is that true? Take a look at this Signal message. You can see it says member SPCI under Chaudhry's name. SPCI, according to our source, stands for Strategic Planning and Continuous Improvement, a group chat including at least 3 MSDE employees communicating through Signal. This is a thread from that group chat. You can see Chaudhary initiates the conversation, even adding employees to the group. And this discussion is not personal. It's about Maryland Leads, a state grant program that helps schools spend federal funds.
Mr. Superintendent, have you ever used the Signal application and commission of your job?
I have no comment. Thank you much. Appreciate it. For my
Well,
job?
Well, you've never used Signal for your job?
Thank you.
The state superintendent's contract expires in June 2024. The State Board of Education, in just 2 weeks, will have to vote on whether or not to offer him a new contract. That vote has already been delayed for 2 months amid these serious concerns over transparency and allegations of a toxic workplace culture. Project Baltimore will keep you updated as the situation unfolds. I'm Chris Pabst, and this is Project Baltimore.
With State Superintendent of Schools Mohammed Chaudhary fighting for his job, let's take a look at how he got here. 7 months of Project Baltimore reporting have raised questions over transparency at MSDE. In January, the State Department of Education released the 2022 MCAT state test results. Project Baltimore analyzed that data and in February broke the story of 23 Baltimore City schools where 0 students among those tested were proficient in math. And then weeks later, after that report, MSDE pulled the MCAP data from its website and didn't repost it until March. And then again, when the data reappeared on the MSDE website, it was vastly different. Many data points for the lowest performing schools were replaced with asterisks, making less information available to parents and taxpayers about how public schools are performing. And in April, Project Baltimore attempted to get answers from the superintendent. During a break at MSDE's monthly board meeting, Project Baltimore tried to question Superintendent Chaudhary, but he locked himself behind a door. A month later, Project Baltimore tried again. This time, Chaudhary and the Maryland Board of Education president, Clarence Crawford, spoke with Project Baltimore, but their answers left us with more questions. So Project Baltimore tried a public records request for emails and text messages from the state superintendent. From that request, we learned Chaudhary used a secondary email address for professional business, and his state-issued cell phone was sent to automatically delete text messages after 30 days. Now, through a source, we're learning Chaudhary uses Signal, an encrypted messaging app, as part of his job, even though he told Project Baltimore just weeks ago that he doesn't.
Coming up, a massive row home fire damages 6 homes near Patterson Park. One resident describes the chaotic scene inside.
And Hurricane Lee doesn't look all that formidable right now, but could be a Category 4 or 5 off the East Coast next week. I'm going to let you know what factors are going to play into steering this thing and where it could eventually end up. My Weather Authority forecast. Well, we've been majorly concerned about the heat and a severe weather potential for tomorrow, but something to keep in the back pocket is what's going to be happening into next week. We are tracking the tropics as well. Hurricane Lee forming as a 75-mile-an-hour hurricane today. It was a tropical depression and tropical storm yesterday, and by the time we get to this weekend, could be a Category 4, almost Category 5 storm. Then the question is, computer models say, does it make the turn? And does it make the turn back out to sea? Well, some of these computer models are getting concerning with the fact that this is north of the Bahamas and out just east of our southeast coastline and could be a Category 4 or Category 5. The question is, this cold front that's going to be moving in from the north and west, actually a series of cold fronts, will the last one that comes through next week be strong enough to pick this up, push it all the way east and out to sea, or will it be a closer call with some more major impacts around here? The jury's still out. Most computer models say it goes out to sea, but again, it is something we're watching closely, and we're going to let you know about that severe potential coming up. My Weather Authority forecast.
The viral video raises eyebrows. A police officer caught on camera in uniform with a patrol car kissing a woman before climbing into the back of his cruiser. We hear from two women. One claims to be his wife, the other, the woman in the video.
The Baltimore County Fire Department entering into a consent decree. The disturbing accusations that led to the agreement right after the break.
We're following three big stories right now. Baltimore County's fire department is under a consent decree with the Department of Justice. The disturbing new details under investigation.
A Prince George's County police officer suspended after a viral video in a park near a school. What we are learning about his past legal troubles.
And Baltimore police have reported more than 26,000 crimes this year, from shootings to car thefts to robberies. Why one expert argues city leaders should be taking some of those crimes more seriously. We begin there. Fox 45 News is investigating how police are enforcing those crimes across Baltimore.
Amy Simpson has a closer look at car thefts and shares some concerns from local residents.
Thieves are taking cars by the dozens every single day in Baltimore City. Baltimore police data reveals at least 7,000 cars already taken in 2023. The math averaging out to about 29 cars stolen each and every day. That's more than 1 car stolen every hour.
It's not a matter of, hey, if my car will be stolen. No, it's when. Your car likely will be stolen if you park it in a public place here in Baltimore City, if it's a Kia or Hyundai.
Some point to the deluge of Hyundais and Kias being targeted, part of a TikTok trend, often prompting juveniles to hotwire cars. And Baltimore City's top prosecutor says state laws are roadblocks to holding some thieves accountable.
It's very frustrating. You have officers doing their job, risking their life. You have victims who struggle to make the car payments, struggle to pay the insurance, doing what they can, and here comes a young kid, a child, stealing their car because it's a game. They think the system will hold that child accountable, but it's not happening.
So much criminality in the city that all of a sudden very serious crimes are treated almost like nuisance crimes.
But auto theft is not a crime of violence, instead considered property crime, leaving real people in the lurch.
Car theft is a very serious issue. That's one's transportation, but also one has invested a lot of money in that car. Of course, there are considerations of insurance costs, those kinds of things. That's a huge loss.
Last week, a Baltimore woman detailed her experience after her Hyundai Tucson was taken from outside her home in July.
I called the police, and it took them about an hour, almost 2 hours to get back to me.
She told FOX45 News police never came out to the scene.
The police report over the phone. It was a really weird process, kind of quick, kind of confusing.
Today we asked BPD if this is standard practice. The department pointing to its smart policing, launched in Baltimore City last year, shifting to an alternative response for non-priority calls, freeing up officers for high-level crimes. Amy Simpson, FOX45 News.
The Baltimore Sun is reporting that the Maryland Public Information Act Compliance Board is ordering the Baltimore City Board of Ethics to release the list of donors to the Mosby Legal Defense Fund. The defense fund was created on behalf of City Council President Nick Mosby and his then City State's Attorney wife, Marilyn Mosby, back in 2021. Well, last year, the Ethics Board demanded Nick Mosby shut down that fund, return any money raised from it, and hand over a list of donors. In March, the BOE released a list of donations but redacted donors' names. The Sun also reports the city plans to appeal the ruling.
A 23-year-old and 2 18-year-olds were hurt in a triple shooting this afternoon in Brooklyn. It happened on 5th Street near Patapsco Avenue by the Brooklyn Safe Streets location. Police were called to the scene around 4:30. Officers say one of the 18-year-olds is in critical condition and homicide detectives were notified. We'll update this story as information becomes available.
Heavy black smoke coming from a row of homes in southeast Baltimore this afternoon. Fire officials say the fire started about 4 p.m. on Bank Street near Patterson Park. As many as 6 homes were damaged, leaving residents stunned by what they saw.
I was asleep. I woke up to someone pounding on the door. I thought it was a package. So I ran downstairs and all my neighbors were like wide-eyed, staring at the door like the house is on fire.
I mean, the entire place was engulfed with black smoke. Like the whole park looked like nothing I've ever seen before, and I come to this park all the time.
Well, one woman says her neighbors heard an explosion around the time the fire started. The cause still under investigation.
Maryland Transportation Authority Police Chief Kevin Anderson and his wife are no longer with the state agency. An MDTA spokesperson confirmed the news, saying Anderson resigned and Joseph Scott is now the acting chief. Sources familiar with the case tell Fox 45 News Anderson's wife, an MDTA lieutenant assigned to BWI Airport, was also suspended. They say both were suspected of having been involved in stealing at some point. You can find more on this story on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
New details tonight surrounding the Prince George's County police officer caught kissing a woman in a park near a school. Well, tonight we're learning more about his past legal troubles. Brad Bell with our sister station in Washington has the story.
The video, now with millions of views, shows uniformed Prince George's County police officer Francesco Marlette in an embrace with a woman in the parking lot of a park. Children can be heard playing in the background. After the embrace, the officer and the woman climb into the back seat of the marked police car and disappear behind heavily tinted windows. The person who posted the video telling 7 News they were in there for a while.
30 minutes went by, it started getting dark, and that's when she literally just got out the truck and she went up out her way.
Now, people claiming to be Marlette's wife and the woman in that video are sounding off. The purported wife texting this reporter, calling the woman her husband's mistress, then posting on social media, calling it embarrassing and painful and saying that they've been doing this behind her back for years. The person claiming to be the woman in the video then replying on social media, saying the wife cheats on the husband and don't be mad at her because, quote, your husband wants me. As for the man in the middle, Officer Marlette, he's been suspended, his police powers taken away, and his history is raising questions. Though charges were dropped and his record expunged, he was indicted in 2016 on child abuse charges, and earlier this year, he was suspended for a month in relation to domestic violence charges. 7 News has requested Officer Marlette's discipline record under a 2-year-old law, which makes that a matter of public record. We've asked police how he was disciplined when indicted, and we've asked if there will be additional discipline now that he's been suspended for a second time this year. And now, sources with knowledge of this case are telling us that though there were allegations made against this officer over the years, none of them were ever proven in court. There was nothing that the police department could do. They couldn't terminate him, and so he has stayed on. Now, their investigation continues into precisely what went on inside that car behind those tinted windows, and that'll be the key to this case. In Upper Marlboro, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
We're learning more about why the Baltimore County Fire Department was placed on a federal consent decree. Some findings in a recent complaint may be disturbing to some viewers. Fox 45's Maxine Stryker has details.
Some of it's very shocking. Some of it is very concerning.
This 12-page complaint against the Baltimore County Fire Department includes allegations dating back to 2017.
There are some concerning names in there from 2017 that are still part of the command staff.
According to the complaint, 11 female employees were subjected to a hostile work environment when a former male employee distributed nude and inappropriate pictures of them to other coworkers, solicited pictures from coworkers, and even went on to post the pictures to a social media site. The complaint alleges that the department ultimately failed to take immediate action to address the issue and didn't adequately communicate with the victims.
There was no follow-up with some of the members that were victims of this sexual harassment, and I think that's where the DOJ really kind of went. There was no follow-up, no follow-through, no proper investigation for a long period of time, and I think that's where our members were not served properly and still made the workplace very problematic for those individuals that were harmed.
Fire Union President John Sabiga says his members deserved better.
As a huge training component.
Under the terms of the consent decree, the department will overhaul its process for investigating complaints of sexual harassment and provide periodic sexual harassment training.
We certainly welcome any additional training. We want a workplace that is free from sexual harassment that the decree mainly deals with, but we also want a workplace free of any type of harassment, any type of retaliation, any type of intimidation. That's what our goal is always going to be.
The county will also pay $275,000 to compensate the 11 female employees victimized. This follows a rare vote of no confidence recently made within the Baltimore County Fire Department.
This just kind of solidifies some of those things that are in our vote of no confidence report.
Maxine Stryker, Fox 45 News.
In response, Baltimore County Fire Chief Joanne Rund said every employee deserves to feel safe in the workplace. She said she's proud of the progress and commitment to diversity under her leadership. You can read her entire statement online at foxbaltimore.com.
New reports: Hunter Biden is likely to be indicted by the end of the month. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with